I found that session very interesting. I thought that was the debate of the past, or debate of the present at best. What I'm here to talk about is the debate of the future. And how in the future, a lot of the disruption that is happening because of technology is going to change a lot of the conversations that you have been having and have been hearing on stage. And a lot of you are going to be engaged in that conversation. But before we go there and we talk about the disruptive impact of technology, how your industry is going to change, how the creative and the media buying sides have to merge, and how you have to think about brands separately, let me tell you a little story about how I am here and why this session or my speech is going to be called the Last Man Standing speech. So as I was going through the process of deciding how to get involved in this conference, we had a panel. There were supposed to be 4 of us and do something similar to what these guys did, which I thought was very relaxed. You get off a plane, you're jet lagged, it's the middle of the night for you. I can handle a few questions. Slowly, a few of those people vanished. It was going to be me and another individual, and we're going to have a chat. I can handle a 45-minute chat with another individual. Until he decided to bail as well, so here I am, all by myself. So I thought, fine, I will use a PowerPoint crutch and find some creative examples, and I'll do that, which I sort of lost on my way here. And as I was sitting there in the front row, I decided this was too hard, so I was going to try and do something different. I was going to try and stay true to the script or the part which you guys have read. I'm supposed to talk to you about conversations. I'm supposed to talk about the power of the social media. I'm supposed to talk about wisdom of crowds. So I asked the organizer, Bhaskar, what do we do? He said, I'm really sorry. We're a hierarchical country. We follow orders. And nobody is allowed to ask questions. I said, all right. Unfortunately, I come from a company which would not function if you were not allowed to ask questions. So it's hard for me. So we're going to call this the Google session, and he's allowed the Google exception. So we're also going to do something called user-generated content, which I'm sure many of you heard about, which is about to put the media industry in trouble because users are generating their own content and consuming it. So you guys are going to have to now ask me questions, and in true Google form, I will try and create a speech on the fly and answer your questions. Are you guys ready for this? All right, good. Okay, so I think there are a few mics around here somewhere. They're supposed to magically appear. Okay. They are there. I promise you, they exist. All right, we have 4 mics, so please go right ahead and start asking questions. We'll collect the questions. We'll try and see if I can answer them in some cohesive way and make sure you go back happy. I was told you guys are very inquisitive. You work in the creative world. You just have to make your presence known, and I think Mike will magically appear. Yes, go. Oh, I thought you were not allowed to ask questions. Okay, fine. Go ahead. You asked me, I'll repeat it. I can hear it. There we go.
Hello. I think Google is harming the world, you know. I see the kids of these days, anything, we ask them a question, they first Google. There is no creativity left inside human beings. So we are making, if you answer all the questions, how people would survive, except some old people told me, I'm not old, that's why, that, you know, tell me, Bhaskar, which question Google cannot answer? I said, I'm not really aware of. I'm anyway technologically challenged. He said, no, still one question, and I'm telling you Google can never answer. I said, what is that? And why Indians go in numbers to temples? Must be Google can't answer. So that's my question. What Google can't answer, and if you are destroying creativity of kids?
All right, I'm going to keep writing them down as opposed to answering them right now.
Only 2 questions.
All right, go ahead. Anybody else have more questions? There's one back there.
In social media, there are mediums, you know, there are different companies who rule for a certain period of time, and then they pass over the baton to some other company. So it happens with Orkut, now Facebook, now we are seeing Google+. What is the thing that continues with all these things and will continue forever?
Okay.
Yeah. How long?
Go ahead, ask.
Yeah. How long will it take the real world to see eyeball to virtual world?
All right. I think I understood your question.
I have a question here.
Yes.
What went wrong with Google+? It started with a bang, but then it's nowhere.
I have another question as well here. So conversations are one-on-one discussions really, but are we yet ready for the one-on-one in terms of responding directly to the person? Because currently what kind of content is driving these conversations versus what is the kind of commitment that you need to really drive one-to-one conversations and hence certainty rather than just a sort of broadcasting mindset?
I thought that's a challenge for you guys. Okay.
One more for
yes,
me.
please.
Hello.
I come from a television background, and I see the latest 100 channels by YouTube kind of a thing. A big challenge for television going forward. How do you define that landscape? And especially because you guys have run foul with all the cable operators in United States. They are not giving you any bandwidth. And your television service wasn't what it was supposed to be in the first place. But I'm getting threatened because television is being threatened by Google too.
You guys are a very friendly audience.
Right.
No, you guys promised me an easy time.
Now, Google, sorry,
Yes,
the Google, which is built on a single product.
So you have to tell me. Oh, there you are. Right.
No, here.
I see you. Oh.
No, in front of you.
Here, sorry.
In front of you. Hello. Nikesh is in front of you. Okay.
Got it.
Here. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
So, no, I mean, Google, which is built on like a single product where search was driving your 90% of your revenues. And now that the search is declining, which is taking over by the, the recommendation of the Facebook. So do you think that there's a serious threat to Google because like your Google Plus really didn't take off the way you thought it would be, because I thought it was more of a copying of Facebook than really creativity coming out of it, which was in the first place?
Okay.
I have a question here.
Yes.
Since this is about building brands, how does a brand control a conversation towards building it rather than letting it go all over the place?
How does a brand control a conversation online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Hey, Manara.
Hi, Nikesh. Just a couple of words, and you can build a presentation around it. One is China, the other one is Motorola. Thank you.
Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoint. It is very relaxed. It works.
I have, sorry, one question. Yeah. Excuse me here. Sorry,
yes.
One question here, which is about Google TV, which I've been reading about recently. So I'm curious to see whether Google's going to move towards actually becoming a content producer also. So not just distributing content, but actually working with brands to develop, say, branded entertainment, and then sharing that on Google TV.
Okay.
So here. Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Before, Orkut was the one I was using, but when I went to US, everyone was using Facebook. So why US is more friendly towards Facebook than Orkut? Why can't you publish a brand Orkut in US?
We tried.
And also, your CEO was, a couple of months back, was having a conversation with all the leading newspapers in US. And there was a huge hype that Google is going to save the newspaper industry in US. So what is the stance now? And what's happening in that field?
Is that like the temple question, like the prayer thing?
Okay, one more here, Nikesh.
Yes. Check this.
So will you share with us what Google's doing in the future with technology that drives cars on its own and the driver just sits around? And how far away is that in getting from lab to factory and then from getting from factory to the whole world?
Got it. I'm still waiting for mine.
Mr. Google, I have got one question, one fundamental question. What are you? Can you define yourselves?
Sorry, what am I?
What are you? Can you define yourselves from the point of view of business model?
Oh, you mean the company as opposed to me? I thought I'm a holographic image of a person who's sitting in California. Yes.
Nikesh.
Yes.
What is your I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your experience on this term net sentiment versus purchase intent? What's the kind of correlation?
This is a very technical industry phrase for all of you guys. It's like protectionism, right?
We just heard it this morning.
Net sentiment?
Net sentiment. That means the kind of sentiment a page on Facebook is creating,
right,
and the kind of purchase intention it is generating.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
We call it the zero moment of truth, as opposed to the moment of truth. Yes.
Since Google is sort of collecting all this data about us, it sort of knows everything that we do, our search history, our emails, our tasks, our, what we're working on, our preferences, etc., and we're using their web browser as well to go to Facebook, and I don't know what they're monitoring there. So basically, I mean, if I were to ask something related to advertising...
I actually know what you're going to ask.
Yeah, like how does it, since this is probably true. No, but like if you know so much about people already, how do you think Google probably has all of this data which can be used in a way to sort of influence advertising in the future? In the sense that this is a gold mine for all these advertisers, right? And like they say, pinpoint targeting and actually converting ad money into real sales. So I mean, is this going to happen in the future, like the digital marketing revolution?
Okay. All right, should we start? You got any more? Yes.
One more here.
All right.
Yeah.
1 second. Let me have the gentleman. And then...
Thanks. Nikesh, one hears all the time consistently about the importance of China and India. And then you look at Apple's product roadmap for this country, and it's woefully short. And then you look at a lot of the developments of Google in the US and the other developed markets, and then you look at India, and it's woefully short. Either in terms of, let's say, the accuracy of maps, or Google Goggles, or a lot of the services that are out there are just not India ready. So where is this gap between what we keep hearing about, the importance of India, and the product roadmaps?
This is like a sentiment intent question.
I have one question here.
Did you have a question there? Yes.
So I'm going to ask you a question that you're going to feel nice about, as opposed to all those Google Plus questions.
Thank you. Google Plus is a very nice question, actually.
So, what do you think Google search got right? Because Yahoo search tried to follow suit, Bing tried to follow suit, but you clearly lead the market. So, what, according to you, is that one thing that you got right?
Okay. All right. Let's do this, and I'm sure if there's time left, we can go for more questions.
Last question here. Sorry.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, Google is also into mobile advertising. So how big do you see mobile advertising in India compared to a market like US?
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's start. I represent a company which didn't exist about 13 years ago. Google started about 13 years ago, and there were a lot of things that had to come into place for something like that to happen, for something like that to succeed. You just asked me a question, what is that one thing that Google got right? If you look at where we are in the world today, there's roughly about 20–25% broadband penetration around the world. Mobility is very close to 80–90%. And effectively, anybody who has disposable income is online in some way, shape, or form. Now, that is a marketeer's dream, because you have a nation of people who are all like-minded, they're all connected the same way, they're all handling distribution the same way. And if you look at the waves of technology that we've gone through, if you look at the notion that there was a time when you did a search and you're happy that the information was findable in 2, 3, 4 pages, eventually you figured out that there was information. But as this ubiquity happened, as people started coming online, you started realizing that if you were a business, or if you were a product, or if you were anything of any consequence, you better make sure your information is online. So in our parlance, in our industry, in our own world, we think about that point, which was sort of the era of information. We all had information, and it was important for us to be able to find that information. Hence, Google was born. The notion that if the information exists on the internet, we will help you find it. And there is sort of a notion of comprehensiveness, right? We all believe that if it is out there on the web, if you go search for it, you'll find it. And I won't say search for it where, but the notion is if you go to a cocktail party and somebody tells you, I found this information on the web, you actually don't ask them where or how. Your notion is, if you can find it, I can find it. So you've got this notion of comprehensiveness that it exists out there, it must be available, I can find it. If you go back and look at what's happened in history, since the beginning of history till about 2003, 5 exabytes of information was created. For those of you who are technically inclined, an exabyte is 40,000 hours of television. Today, every 2 days, 5 exabytes is created. Every 2 days. Right? So dealing with the information era today is like drinking from a fire hose. Don't try that at home. You might get blown away. But there is so much information out there that we run the risk of not being able to find anything because there's too much of it as opposed to too little of it. We came from a world where there was too little information. Now we're coming to a world where there's too much information. And things which you thought were never going to happen have become possible, and we take them for granted. And you look around yourself, you have mobile phones. You can't imagine how life would be without a mobile phone. 5 years ago, if I'd asked that question, how many people have broadband in this room? You didn't have it. Today, if I said, if I cut off your internet connection, or if I take your wallet for a day, which one are you more likely to be happy with? Depending on your gender, you may choose one versus the other, right? So we're at a point where a lot of this technology has become a must-have, and every wave of technology allows the next wave to build on top of it, right? So we've had this wave of information. We all believe that internet is ubiquitous. We can find information wherever we want it. And then the next wave came about. When you have high broadband, high bandwidth, you have lots of information, you have a notion where suddenly you're seeing video on the web. And my friend there is worried about television because people are putting content on the web, and you run the risk that I will start consuming content the way I want it on the web as opposed to it being broadcast to me. The most recent wave, as many of you have seen, is the wave of social networking. Now, what makes Facebook special? What makes Google Plus interesting? The moment you have too much information, you go back to your old notion of community. You have to go back to a notion of, instead of trying to find out what the entire crowd thinks, let me find out what those 5 people I trust think, or those 10 people I trust think, which is what we do. This is how we conduct life. The internet is a representation of life. So what happens is, in the social networking world, what we started to do is we started to go back and rely on those 10 friends or 20 friends and 50 friends. I don't want the recommendation of an editor. I don't want the recommendation of 1,000 people. I want to know where my 20 friends are eating. I'd much rather trust their judgment versus trust the judgment of 5 exabytes of information being created every 2 hours. So what we're seeing is we're seeing us go from an era of information, or a web of information, to a web of people. Right? That is the new trend. It is a web of people. If you remember, there's a time when you all signed up for your first email account. I actually don't remember signing up with my real name for my first email account because it was not important. It was just seemed to be a way to get some messages back and forth. Today, people would pay money to get their name at Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or whichever email addresses because it's hard to find your own name. And I'd much rather have my own name. So we're going from a world of anonymity on the web to a world we actually want to represent ourselves on the web. And that is the trend. That is why people want to be on Facebook. That is why people want to be on Google Plus as themselves, because I don't want to be, Dolly Raja 20195 at gmail.com. I want to be my name. So you're seeing this big trend from information to people wanting to represent themselves, from a web of information to a web of people, and that's where the next trend is going to be born. Now, if you think of what that means, right? Coupled with the development in technology, coupled with the notion of social activism, coupled with the notion of people wanting to be in control, I think all industry models, all business models are going to change. The power is truly going to be that of the user. It is going to be in the hands of the user. If you think about how it's manifesting itself, look at what happened in the summer in the Middle East, the Arab Spring. If you look at what's happening in the US with Occupy Wall Street, it is these tools of social networking, it is this connection or web of people which is allowing people to get together in a very short notice, create flash mobs, create conversations around certain topics, and when the conversation finishes, they'll go away. Right? There is a new conversation going on. And one of our marketing guys happened to be in Egypt at the time, and he ended up having a Facebook page, and there's a big story around how he ended up creating a whole movement around getting people together, and was part of the reason what happened in Egypt happened. So you're beginning to see that users are beginning to take control. Now that has significant impact into every conversation you guys are having before, whether it's a creative conversation, whether it's a brand building conversation, whether it's a conversation with your users. But let's explore this notion of technology a bit more further, right? So users are in control. There is too much information in the world. There is too much information on the web. Now, all this stuff comes with a bit of a health warning, right? So what happens is somebody was concerned about having too much access to too much information, yet at the same time you saw a piece of creator from Alipay, right, which is about trust. And forever, consumers have been balancing trust with convenience, right? If you don't want anybody to know anything about you, don't tell them. But if nobody knows anything about you, it's highly unlikely you're going to get what you need. So we all strike that balance. When you take out your credit card and use it somewhere, there is a notion that you want to have some convenience. When you want to have that convenience, I'm going to find out who you are. it's most likely that your credit card company knows more about you than most other people around you.